You also have a white heritage.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And as a child of God, because as a child of God, as a Christian, it's all about redemption at the end of the day. So what does you redeeming both your African and your European blood look like?
Wow. What does it look like? Okay, right. I've got two sides. I've got the Portuguese side, which was my nan willfully getting married to African descendant. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So that's the willful side. So I went around and everyone knows me. I'm like Portuguese, yeah. My parents from Madeira, so I'm cool down with that still. Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, I have no interest on my dad's side of the family redeeming the more side in terms of the Scottish in there, because for me it was something that was enforced on us. Yeah, so for me,
but you don't exist without it. So what does that matter?
Affinity Extra, be extra.
Yeah, guys, this is Roger Moore here on Affinity Extra. We're here to celebrate gospel music of black origin, and on top of that, we're here to talk the blackness as they know. You know how it goes on here on Affinity Extra. We keep it real, and we talk about issues from a black Christian perspective, and not the be all end all of that, but I don't think anyone chats about this. I think that everybody just hides away from this and maybe talk about it under their breath. And I think that under the breath has to move away, and we need to have open dialogue about this, because as Christians it does affect us, what we see on TV, it does affect us what we hear, it does affect us what we don't hear as well, and we need to have that conversation and understand that blackness is not as straightforward as it sounds as well. You know what I'm saying? We come from different backgrounds, we come from different parts of the you cannot have a continent of Africa. And the funniest things, we'll probably testimony to this, yeah. You can't have a continent and call everyone Nigerian. That's disrespectful. Which he laughed because he knows that's happened in life.
Yeah.
And there's so much difference in cultures from the Southern African countries, Eastern, Western, Northern. There's so much difference, and let alone the Afro slave countries, you know, which is the full-on Americas, from as south as some elements of Brazil into even Argentina, but we won't go into that subject of how they got wiped out. But then you're going to go even more north into Canada as well. How did all these people end up in the Americas? That's a lot of black people. I think Brazil has the 5th highest population of African people in the world. How's that happened? But anyway, we know how that's happened anyway. So yeah, but everybody has different cultural backgrounds, so the whole complications of blackness itself is complicated in itself anyway, so it's not as straightforward as it seems. It's not just from a Jamaican perspective, yeah. So but we're here celebrating ourselves, our colour, and we're here to have tough conversations about this anyway. So yeah, some of the subjects I've raised about is the whitewashing of Christianity. We spoke with Bishop over, and I would say booked up with my friend who I know his younger sister way before himself, but I didn't realise he's been in the scene for absolutely donkeys and years. But I let him introduce himself, yeah, and we're gonna chop straight into it, because we're gonna deal. When the subjects come up, I'm gonna bring Terry on to talk about it as well. You know what I mean? Because it's not gonna be purely from Roger's perspective. But listen, we're gonna get into it anyway. So yeah, but Terry, just introduce yourself and your background and where you originally from and where you're at in Bromtown. How you got here?
All right then. Do you know what? I hadn't even thought about the whole introduction bit. Because I don't know. I just never tend to focus on myself. I always think about what are we talking about, what are we doing.
Okay, cool.
It's like background, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm Zimbabwean by birth. Yeah.
Cool.
Came to England that 2002.
Tiva, are you quick one? Are you Shona?
Yeah, I'm Shona.
You Shona? Okay, cool.
So like in Zimbabwe, we have a few different tribes or ethnicities within the Zimbabwean population, right?
Yeah.
And the majority are Shona, so we're from the north of the country.
So you know, okay, because I know you got there's the Southerners that came in and kind of pushed you guys up north.
So we have the Ndebeles in the south.
Yeah.
Who are related to like the Zulus
and stuff. Yeah, cool.
But the Ndebeles are now distinct from the Zulus because linguistically it's really similar, culturally it's somewhat similar, but if you like genetically, if you like, when they came up north and conquered, they would take, what do you call it, tribute.
Okay,
from
cool.
the
Yeah,
tribes
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
conquered,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that included virgins and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
So most of the Ndebele population now is obviously genetically partly Shona as well.
Yeah, cool. Oh, okay.
So,
woo, I learned something today.
Right?
yeah.
So when I was thinking about this today, because when we talk about race and we talk about culture and we talk about things that happened in the past, especially as black people, we focus on the black-white dynamic.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we don't think about the internal black dynamic of, because we conquered each other, right?
Okay, yeah, we did. There was something going on. There were kingdoms in Africa, yeah.
It's easy to forget the atrocities that happened within Africa, because I suppose in some ways they're less recent, unless we're talking about the Hutus and the Tutsis. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, true.
Some of them are less.
Everyone
recent.
talks about Rwanda and what happened with Rwanda. Yeah, it won't focus on that.
But then that was happening for ages.
Yeah, cool.
And that happened everywhere with all human beings.
Yeah.
But that's we're going too far ahead. I'm still introducing
Cool.
myself.
Yeah.
Came to
I'm
England,
learning, guys.
came to England in 2002. Landed in London first.
How old were you when you landed?
15.
Okay, cool.
And then we moved out to Birmingham after a couple of years.
Cool,
and I've
cool,
been
cool.
here since.
How did you find London when you first came over? Fast?
I don't know. I was in school, so my focus was just
school. Yeah, okay, cool.
And just sort of adjusting to a new place, a new life.
Cool.
I didn't think about it until I lived in Birmingham for a couple of years and then went back to London for a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, the pace is different. The pace is mad different.
Yo, it is, isn't it? Yeah. It is. For real. Yeah, I think people don't realize that, but and just to make it, just in case anyone thinking that, in a second, there was no language barrier because English was widely spoken in Zimbabwe, innit? Yeah,
it's an official language. So apart from learning Shona in school or learning Ndebele in school when we're doing the subject, everything else is largely taught in English.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
Like math, science.
Yeah.
Everything else is English.
So adapting to language wise, because sometimes you have some people come from different nations and they got to adapt to the language and stuff. So I just want to get that clear because I think that's so crucial in terms of your learning and you adapting to culture and stuff like that. So no, that's fantastic. I know Birmingham is a different kind of even dynamic culturally as well, when it comes to blending London itself and whatsoever. But that's cool. And just to give a bit of background, church-wise, was it always you grew up in church? Is church part of who you are from the beginning to this day? Yeah,
so initially Catholic.
Okay.
Growing up.
All right.
Went through about 3 sacraments. I got up to Holy Communion. They didn't get quite get confirmed. You know about the 7 sacraments, right?
No. my nanny's the Catholic, man. But I'm like, we went the other route. I was more evangelical growing up and Methodist, and then more in Pentecostal in my older years. So just explain that. That means you was getting deep into the whole Catholic thing.
Yeah, so it's just part of the journey. So can I even remember them properly? You have baptism.
Yeah.
Because with Catholics and other Orthodox churches, they baptize when somebody's young.
Bring the mic over. Get more comfortable with the mic, man. Yeah, so I'm just making sure that everyone gets every word that he says. Okay. Yeah, cool.
So 7 sacraments, if I can remember them properly. It's baptism, confession, Holy Communion.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Confirmation.
Cool.
Marriage.
Okay.
And I forget one more. I think the last one is like basically last rites. So when you know on your deathbed, the priest comes along.
Okay.
And just basically helps you transition to the other side, like getting ready for death. I forgot one more. I think instead of marriage, it's when the priest makes his pledges, and because priests are meant to be celibate.
Okay,
they don't marry like Catholic priests. Anyway.
Yeah, cool.
So I think that's the 6th one. I can't remember.
Wow.
I haven't been on the Catholic journey for a long time.
Yeah. But no, that's it's interesting to know. Obviously, I need to do a bit more research about Catholics here. but no, that's fantastic. The reason why, guys, are thinking, why are you going into this? Because I think it's important for myself. I'm not grew up in a Pentecostal background, so I have a different perspective to things thanks to my growing up. And I think the key thing is the church also not only origins affects who we are today. That 100%. It help. Critical thinking is affected by that environment that we have.
How you're educated,
and whatever. They're still and I find that the guys, like you said, Catholics and Methodists and evangelical, not so much evangelicals. We're more almost a case of not so emotive about our opinions of Christianity. We're more thinkers. I say we more plausible. I don't know. We're more. We process things a lot different. Sorry if you Pentecostal people are going to beat me up about this, but I'm not emotionally driven as much as you guys. I just put it out there so anyway. But anyway, that's great. We've got a bit of vibe about Terry, and we're gonna chop into it, and we're gonna look into a few things anyway. So just to give you an idea, and hopefully we're gonna get Terry coming in and speaking on certain subjects when they come up going into 2022. But let's just kick off, bro, because myself, we've gone through this whole thing called Black Lives Matter, and people think it's gone in the UK. It's far from gone, from as far as I'm concerned. Not in terms of, okay, let me get straight to it. For me, collectively, as a church, a voice in the UK, white, black, Asian, whatever, the voice of when the church stands up and says something, they have something to say about COVID, they have something to say about World War I, World War II, about the veterans, about Remembrance Days and all these things, but I felt like there's been no response to the injustices that black people have had, and it's kind of brought out in this period over the past couple of years. So as COVID kicked in, then we saw the thing with George Floyd, and then when for the physically how black people, they've been told about it, but it's been put in their face, and then everyone's responding to it in culture and whatsoever. And for me, the church hasn't responded. This is my guys. I say for me, I'm not saying it for everybody else, but for me, hasn't done enough and haven't responded to support the black people within Christendom in the UK and say, listen, this is wrong. This is what we want to come into it now. But it shows to me that they don't feel that it's an important issue. Right. That's like, I'm not talking about individuals, because we know there's great people out there, you know what I'm saying, but I'm talking about collectively it's important for the church. But that's just where I'm at anyway. So where are you at with that? Let's just kick off there, because I think that was a massive thing that's happened over the past couple of years.
I think with the Black Lives Matter thing, for me, it's a difficult one, especially being here in the UK, because it's almost an American thing that's been tacked on. So I'm not saying black people don't have issues here in the UK.
Okay, cool.
But their manifestation is somewhat different because their histories are different. There's overlaps. But in the UK, slavery hasn't been enshrined in law for the longest time. So So you'd have slaves escaping from boats once they landed in the UK because they knew that they would be free here, right? So if you think about it, if you think about the two nations running in parallel, America had to have its civil rights thing in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
There was racism here in the UK. And there were issues like here in Birmingham, people still talk about it, where you had the pubs that had no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
right. Yeah. But that was illegal. So it was a cultural thing and not a legal thing. Whereas in the States, it was a legal thing.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Okay, cool.
So that affects people differently. That affects the way you think. That affects integration, so on and so forth. But because there's cultural differences and cultural barriers between black people and white people here in the UK. And also access to wealth and so on and so forth, there will be differences and there will be occurrences of racism and oppression and so on and so forth. But the dynamics are vastly different from those
in America. Okay.
So we don't see, if you like, the brutality that you see in the States. Because there's another dynamic that's different, and that's one of gun culture.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? America has from its very roots has a strong gun culture, or militant culture or whatever, based on self-defense, based on the experiences of all those immigrants who went from Europe to create the United States. Because in the back of their heads, they were like, if we as a population don't have access to weapons and whatnot, then we'll be oppressed. It's easy for the leaders to oppress us like they did in Europe, because the initial immigrants to the United States were escaping oppression from the European royalty.
Right? And there was a lot of even religious restrictions that a lot of like Quakers and so on moving to there. So where you going from.
So you have a strong militant culture within the American mindset in general. So when you have access to weapons like that, when you have a brutal history, which a lot of people don't quite get in all its messy glory, if you like. You don't quite get why certain things happen the way that they happen. So when the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened, or when it happened with George Floyd and so on and so forth, yes, there needed to be a public outcry because that was wrong. But the way it spread across the world, and you ended up having riots and so on and so forth, which more took away from what the issues were, because at no point should you validate destruction of property, even ending of lives because people died in those riots. And that didn't help anyone. It's not like it was now all out war. It was, and there was more black people who died in those riots than anybody else. So again, who did it help? So
So I get you. Go on.
There's so if you're coming back to the church and the church's voice, the problem is that it's messy. The situation is messy and it needs properly breaking down, because when you hear the rhetoric that comes out with regards to Black Lives Matter, it's not specific enough.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It's a little bit too vague. It's too black versus white. It's too we can do this another time when I bring in stats and when I bring in people like voices of people who black people who've broken down what it looks like for law enforcement in America, black and white law enforcement, and how it actually breaks down in terms of interaction in the hood, if you like, when people actually get killed by police. And how many people get killed by police? How many black people? Versus white people, and what circumstances?
Because I watch a lot of programs, like a lot of YouTubers. Because I don't just look at certain types of YouTubers. I look at ones that probably I disagree with, like Officer Tatum and all these guys out there. And they bring their stats on, and I hear that a circle of guys, So because I always try to get a balanced opinion about everything and hear what somebody else feels about the situation.
And it's not to dismiss
it's what's happened.
But it's to bring full context
to everything,
right? Because it's such a mess. Because a lot of what we're talking about education. We're talking about generational wealth,
education,
wealth, right? We're talking about legacy of slavery, and segregation. We're talking about many things that require many solutions, but we act like reparations and it's done. And even that's a generalization. That's a generalization. Right?
No, but it's true.
Because even reparations themselves need to be broken down. Like, how does that even break down? And to whom and how? Right?
Okay, cool.
And which country? Because we talk about black people and white people, but like the Portuguese have their history, the French have their history, the English have their history, the Dutch have their history, so on and so forth.
Italians,
But then let's say we talk about the Scandinavians. They've got no connection to us in terms of colonial.
Okay.
Right. But then when you talk about white privilege, for example, because it's part of the conversation, what do they have in relation to us? What privilege do they have in relation to us? Because they had no interaction in building their wealth through us, as it were, right?
Okay, cool.
So it needs to be very specific in terms of who did what to who, when, why.
Okay, cool.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah,
It's being very, very specific.
No. I think I'll get where you come from. I want to really expand on a couple of points you made. You know what I'm saying? And I fully get where you're coming from in terms of your viewpoint, in terms of specific stats. And I think the stats that we see for me in terms of I hear what you're saying in terms of Black Lives Matter, and it's the first thing that people said. And the Hillsong pastor did say straight away when it happened, he was like, "Well, that doesn't really apply to us here in the UK." You know what I'm saying? You know, and a lot of black people was outraged because I think it's almost saying for us what's happening in the UK is a lot better. I feel now I'm coming from, I call it Afro slave perspective. So I'm an African slave. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, effectively. You know, I'm not an African by birth. I'm African, right. But my heritage is through slavery. So my history was taken out of us by force. Yeah, right. due to slavery. Yeah. Okay. So my surname is my slave mark. Yeah. So Moore is not my name. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it's funny because we had a live show, a Christmas show on the weekend, and one of the girls, she had a DNA test and she found out she's 60% Nigerian, 30% Sierra Leone, and you know what I mean, whatever they're still, you know. So I was like, cool. I'm too scared to do my one, by the way, people. But
no, you need to do it.
So it'd be crazy what tribe I am. Hopefully I'm something like Gabonese anyway. Still, yeah. Don't want to be Nigerian like the rest of them, but you know what I mean. So you know, but okay, so we have different experiences. So I hear what you're saying. I always said to people, you know, we talk to my friends about, you know, even before Black Lives Matter, but the American oppression is what happened to us in England is a different type of expression of racism. Yeah, okay. where as you mentioned that it was illegal to put on the doors. No blacks, no dogs, no Irish, yeah. But it was not upheld. Now it's okay, and I don't know exactly if you're right or not, but I'm going with what you're saying because I ain't looked into that. but if it's not legally put down, but it's not enforced, yeah, you know what I'm saying. It just says that the system. We're almost a paper trail. It's like slavery, bro. You know, it's okay to say, oh, we for England to say, oh, we are now enforcing, we're stopping ships from doing slavery. Yeah. We're the police now. Yeah, but you spent 200 odd years shipping a load of slaves over, and you have breeding stations on the islands. You know what I'm saying? You know, and the people are still doing your dirty work on the islands right up into 19th century. And so-called freedom is basically still taking all the resources out of the nations, having this thing called a Commonwealth. I grew up, and you said the word education, I grew up feeling like, say, the Commonwealth was, we are educated, we going out there civilizing the world. That's from, I went to white school with other white children, and this is how it gets taught to them. We civilize the world through the Commonwealth. But no, it's a brutality. The Americas, they took the guns over. Yes, they might have done to protect themselves, but at the same time, they wiped out a nation. You know what I'm saying? That's what the guns were. They killed, murdered, and wiped out the people. So it's a case of going, there's a hard past there, which isn't as distant as what we think it is. You know what I'm saying? If we spend our time as Christians looking in the Bible, yeah, and we say that, yo, Moses, we're gonna preach on Moses, I'm gonna preach on Isaiah, I'm gonna preach like it's yesterday, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Slavery only was this morning.
Thing is,
go on.
Slavery is as old as humanity, right?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So when you think about it in those terms, then your perspective changes, and you have to realize that we're not the first as black people to face
be enslaved. Yeah, right? Yeah.
And the thing is, I feel funny saying we, because my direct ancestors did not have the experience of slavery that your direct ancestors did.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can't even say we, and this is the specificity that I talk about. That we need to be really specific about who had what experience when, by whom, so on and so forth, because these are individual situations. And it's going to take a lot of individual work, like literally each person sorting themselves out with regards to what happened to them. And just getting over it to whatever degree they can get over it before they can actually be effective in doing anything else corporately.
So, okay.
Right.
So,
because we're all in charge of ourselves, like subject to God, but it's like it's all on you. So God allowed slavery at the end of the day. This is part of a conversation that we don't have as Christians. and
okay, yeah,
have we asked why God let that happen? Because that's part of the equation. It's like, okay, God, you let these people gain the upper hand technologically, and then they came over and they took my ancestors or your ancestors or my brothers and sisters or whatever. And
that's a tough one there, bro.
and brutalized them. Right, raped them, so on and so forth. Made them basically animals, or 3/5 human or whatever. Whatever version.
3/5.
Why did you let that happen? Because we're supposed to have a relationship with God the Father, and God the Father allows things to happen or doesn't allow things to happen. He opens and closes doors. So that door was wide open. And both West and East Africa had like East Africa with Arabs, West Africa with the Europeans. Why did God let that happen? And the thing is, no. So let's ask that question. Let's corporately ask that question. I'm not saying let's answer it now. But let's because at the end of the day, if we're having this conversation as Christians,
that's brilliant.
Then let's have the conversation as Christians. As in, who do we answer to, but also who answers to us? And this is, you know, Miles Monroe.
Cool.
He would talk about the kingdom and so on. A lot, right? And one angle that he brought, and I hope I quote it properly or bring the perspective properly, is that
Let me make sure I get this right.
You have a king and his subjects. Right? And God, and Jesus is our king and so on and so forth. But the king takes responsibility for his subjects.
Okay, cool.
And that looks like Christ on the cross. He took responsibility for his subjects. So he came, he died for us so that we have access to repent. So that we can repent,
so be
reconciled to him. His
European so-called subjects, I say so-called, but is the Christians that are part of the whole triangle that was going around in inverted commas preaching the gospel in Americas and in Africa. You know what I mean? At the same time, fulfilling pillaging basically behind the back of things. You know, it's almost a case of you're almost really saying that, you know what. God allowed that to happen, and where we are is all part of God's divine plan.
Partly, but there's another element of it, because why do we forget that there's an enemy of our souls?
Okay,
we almost discard the full cosmic spiritual aspect of our Christianity. The reason there's evil in the world is not just because of Adam and Eve, but it's also because Satan works to sow seeds of evil.
100%. Yeah.
So to partly answer the question of why God allowed slavery to happen, transatlantic slavery, is because there was already slavery in Africa. So there was already evil happening in Africa. So there was already a market. But some guy with a more efficient way of doing the business came along.
They mass produced it.
Took over, mass produced it.
Yeah.
So
the benefits of that mass production, you know, and like I said, you know, I like what you're saying because it is challenging to me what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I'm saying I 100% agree with what you're saying, but I get where you're coming from because, so the person who mass produced it, which is i.e. Europe, the key European nation being Britain, Lloyd's insurance firms and all business, they had a kick-up, 200-300 year kick-up based upon transatlantic slavery. So You mentioned reparations. How does that look like and whatever there? So yeah, and whatsoever now, yeah. And even the church supported. Let's be corporate church. Corporately supported slavery. I'm sick and tired of we getting thrown Wilberforce in my face. Yeah, end of the day. So yeah, you for generations, you know what I'm saying, supported the slave trade. You know what I'm saying, and you were part of it, and you saw what you saw. You know what I'm saying, and you did not step against it straight away. If I saw that was doing slavery and is with white people, and I saw that. And if I just said carried it on and waited 10 generations after me for me something to do, I am not going to be bragging about what I did. You know what I mean? I'll be embarrassed that it's taken me 10 generations to do it. But that's something to, again, an aside. But ultimately, from a church perspective, now let's go back to the church, the corporate church in the UK. Yeah. As you said, Black Lives Matter came out from an American situation.
Yeah.
Now, okay. The church could have easily said, okay, that struggle is America, but don't get it twisted. What is going on in the UK when it comes to racism in terms of wealth? The wealth of the churches, you know what I'm saying, was a lot of it's been taken out of slavery. You know what I'm saying? The buildings that they have today, you know what I'm saying, was of the beneficiaries of slavery out there, free labor. So we as Afro slaves have really effectively never had reparations.
I have a problem with you identifying as an Afro slave, though.
Okay, cool.
I mean, by all means, that's your ancestor.
Yeah.
That's the experience.
Yeah.
But that's not you. And
so what is me?
You're a child of God. Because we're doing this from a Christian perspective. Right? So from a Christian perspective, yes.
Cool.
Yes, I'm Zimbabwean.
Yeah.
I'm male.
Yeah.
I'm an immigrant to the UK. Next year I'll have a British passport, so I can say I'm British. British Zimbabwean, British, or whenever I choose to do it.
You still got his Zim passport?
Still got my Zim passport.
Yeah.
But all that is subject to my being a child of God, my being a Christian, my being a member of the kingdom. That's my primary identity.
Okay, cool.
So that informs everything else that I do. Yeah. So if you have an Afro slave heritage, that's fine. We acknowledge it, tick it. Although that's only part of your heritage, because we've had conversation. You're also a Moor, right?
Yeah.
And and not just in name, but also in blood.
Yeah.
Right. You also have a white heritage.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And as a child of God, because as a child of God, as a Christian, it's all about redemption at the end of the day. So what does you redeeming both your African and your European blood look like?
Wow. What does it look like? Okay, right. I've got two sides. I've got the Portuguese side, which was my nan willfully getting married to African descendant. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's the willful side. So I went around and everyone knows me. I'm like Portuguese. Yeah. My parents from Madeira. So I'm cool down with that still. Yeah. But I'll be honest with you, I have no interest on my dad's side of the family redeeming the Moor side in terms of the Scottish in there, because for me, it was something that was enforced on us. Yeah. So for me,
but you don't exist without it. So what does that matter?
So for me, it's a case of not like okay, if I met my Moor, say for example Roger Moore, the movie star, is my ancestral ancestral slave master. Yeah, that's how I see him as. Yeah, because he's put his stamp on me. My name's Moore. Yeah, I'll be like, bro, so in my yard there, I'll be like, like. Okay, you're gonna hook up because you're where you are because of you got it. You used us for X amount of years. For your family's benefited us, and from when you got a 3 million that wedge of money, you could continue build upon the estate. I'm not saying that's definitely true because I don't know if he had to go through the hard way and whatever there's still. So I'm not saying 100% it's Roger Moore, but what I'm saying is that even as a Christian, reconciling with the Moors itself, and trying to find out that is not my interest, and my more interest is to find out who I really am from an African perspective. But it's interesting that you posed up about the European perspective, but I'm more interested about my African heritage than I am
Because
it because it's crime that got them involved in it. It's for me, it's crime. It's criminal what they did to us. That's why I'm not interested.
I hear that,
but I'm just giving you why I'm not interested.
Thing is, if you go back enough, go back long enough in your bloodline, like all strands of it, you're going to find rapists and criminals and witches and all manner of human.
Okay, yeah,
black and white. It's just that the white side is documented. So
okay, okay.
So it's more in your face in terms of like the evil that they did, or not even the evil that they did, the evil that they did, right? Because it's not in quotations; it's something that's documented. That happened.
Cool.
But because it's not documented on your African side, you don't see it, and what's highlighted is the oppression. But we're all human. It's just that one side had the upper hand at that point in history. Go back long enough in history, the Africans had the upper hand at one point, right? And it's all a revolving door of oppression and evil and manifestations of all that is ungodly till Christ comes back, right? It's just that at this stage in history, at this stage in history,
yo, Terry's raising some tough questions here. I bet everyone's going. but no, it is a two, because sometimes you're totally right. We do kind of like purify our African side and family.
We sanitize it and
act like it was a set of beautiful people and whatever they're still But you got to understand, bro. Like for me, growing up, okay, right. I hear what you're saying and whatsoever. Yeah. And I will say that and I'll be open about it, guys. And this is you said that my identity is should be as a Christian, and I know growing up, as Caribbean people in this community, a lot of Caribbeans came over here and identified totally right, like you said, I'm first a child of God. So the color thing, we have no interest in it. Yeah,
I need to quote somebody. Can I quickly grab my phone?
Okay, cool. Quickly grab phone. We're gonna hit pause, guys. 1 second. Go on. But what I would say is that for me, it's you raised a few tough questions there. But for me, the European side has and the church has. Bro, it's a tough question. Yes, I'm a Christian, but at the same time, when I walk through the door, bro, I'm black.
I hate it.
Because the thing is, we serve with white people. In Christendom. The Christendom is white, Asian, black. I'm Asian. I'm not talking about just Indians. I'm talking about the whole of Asia. Everybody's involved with Christianity. But the moment we step out into this deep, dark world, I'm saying we are who we are from what people see us as. We're black. You know what I'm saying? So like for me now, it's a case of going, okay, so for me, the importance, you know what I'm saying? And why I now more identify myself and I bring up in this conversation about being an Afro slave is because, yes, we all Christians are out here 100%. But the thing is, we've ignored the Afro slave struggle in this world because our identity was taken out and Christianity was used to help wash out our identity. You know what I'm saying? Right, and the thing is, will white Christianity, the actual whitewashing of Christianity, you know what I'm saying? And it being utilized as a weapon right up into the 50s and 60s and 70s, to deculturalize people of color, not only blacks, but Native Americans, you know what I'm saying, Aborigines, you know what I'm saying, Tasmanians, you know what I'm saying, small oceanic islands, you know what I'm saying, throughout Africa, it was used to say, this is the way to be closer to God, you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean, to be like us, speak like this, do like this, that, you know what I mean, bro, just that's what we have to be very careful of and be proud of who God made us to be, because hence why we have identity issues when it comes to people in the world are facing rubbish in the world who are not Christians, and we can't relate to them because we forget, because Christianity almost washes out and helps us numbs us to who we are by by who God's created us out to be. God's created us as a Afro or European or Chinese or Indian or whichever, someone, you know what I mean, whoever God is, and it's beautiful. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But Christianity has been used as a tool to kind of point to who God.
But then people can use whatever they anything can be used as a tool. Anything can be perverted. Yeah, right. To subject people.
Cool. Yeah.
To all sorts of whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what happens. Is that it's a perversion of a good thing.
Yeah.
Let me get back to this.
Sorry, guys. This is a great conversation because it really gives us questions because it's important. I just want to before you get kicking this, guys, and I think anyone who's listening going, wow, this is just different, Roger. Like you usually just going in, but I think it's important to hear a different perspective on this subject from us as black people because we have to always sharpen our tools and refine it better to be even more effective going forward. So I'm loving this because it's helping me ask questions which nobody usually asks me them questions. So go for it, man. Go for it.
All right.
Hit the quote.
I texted my sister.
Okay, cool.
And I said, I'm going on a podcast.
Danai?
No, Tererai.
The youngest one. Yeah.
I said, I'm going on a podcast. And one of the things that we'll be talking about is race.
Yeah.
And then I said, pray. She said, it's really exciting. I hope you enjoy it. Can't wait to hear it. I said, pray for wisdom, please. And then she said, amen. She's going to pray for me. And then she said, I hope it's a constructive conversation that highlights that as Christians, our brethren are those who we share faith with. Skin folk are not always kinfolk. Right? Just that bit. Just the fact that we look the same
doesn't mean that we are
one.
We are one.
We are one in perspective. We are one in ideas. We are one in.
I get that.
Yeah. Goals. And we forget that too often, right? And we highlight black voices and black experiences, but then sometimes we forget that these black people who are having these terrible things happen to them, it's as a result of their evil deeds, not because of their race and oppression of the white person, but because they decided to choose a life which is ultimately ungodly. You live by the sword, you die by the sword, kind of thing. So totally one angle that people don't want to look at with the George Floyd thing is that he was a criminal, and he had a criminal past. So the manner in which he died was terrible.
You're terrible, 100%,
However,
go on.
We in life, we reap what we sow.
But
this doesn't excuse the Derek, whatever.
He's getting locked up. You're not excusing that. I want to get that clear.
However, you reap what you sow. So now I, as a Christian, when I have context of what happened, I was like, okay, Derek Chauvin should go to prison. Right, that move shouldn't be used as by law enforcement.
Full stop.
Right. Those other police should have gotten involved. Right. He also had drugs in his system that didn't help out his physiology. George Floyd. Cool. Right. And cosmically, spiritually, whatever, you reap what you sow. So you need to call out the whole situation. So now, as a Christian, as somebody who represents Christ first, not blackness first.
How do you call that situation? So, okay, right. So let me flip it on you. I hear what you're saying, but the problem is when we look at other situations where there's mass murders going on, mass shootings, the white person will walk out of the situation when a black guy does a lesser thing and he gets killed. Now, let's call out the disproportionate justice,
right?
Injustice system. But so you mentioned about the UK and the injustice system and whatever there. So the reality of the show is that as black people, we only represent 2-3% of the population. But according to the prisons, we're 30% of the population. You know what I'm saying? Is that because we're criminals? Or is that we're more likely to be criminals? Or is that they've made a beeline to make life harder for us and to more likely to incarcerate us and to look for crime in our culture.
It's all of that, including education. And
Education of who?
Of the black people, in terms of,
Yeah.
because if you're uneducated, you have less opportunity. If you have less opportunity, you're more likely to go to crime to make ends meet.
Okay, so
Right?
okay then. So I know. I'll give you my life example. Yeah, I was working for not Cable Wireless when I moved on from even at Cable Wireless. Yeah, when I was at Cable Wireless, when I was working at T-Mobile, it was 1-to-1 originally when we moved to T-Mobile. When I worked for all these companies out there, yeah, and I'll be straight. I was an engineering degree graduate, and whatever they're still, yeah. I had the education, I mean, I was more educated than some of the guys that were 2 tiers above me, yeah. But then when I look back, I was always held back. You know what I'm saying? Significantly because I'm black. It was nothing else, yeah, but because I was black. So people even have the education, and I hear what you're saying, but we always have to work 3-4 times harder, and it comes to a stage where we're going, this ain't right. You know what I'm saying? If this ain't right, this can't work. And I hear what you're saying in terms of education, but the education,
it's not simply
okay, cool.
It's not simply education as in you get the grades.
The grades. Okay, cool.
Go to uni, whatever.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's also because there's education that you get from, if you like, the system. Right?
Yeah, cool.
Government curriculum, school, uni, whatever. And then there's education that you get from the street, whatever your street looks like. So it could be suburban. It could be village life. It could be like inner city urban, right? But then there's also the education of like your family, as in where's your family come from and where's it trying to go.
Okay, cool.
And there isn't enough of that because one, I think I mentioned this to you before in church. You know that parable where Jesus talks about, I think it's good servant and the evil servant or something, right?
Okay, cool.
And the evil servant is obviously corrupt.
Yeah.
His master finds out.
Yeah.
And then he knows he's going to get fired.
Yeah, correct.
So whilst that's happening, what does he do? He goes to all his clients.
Yeah.
And says, I'm moving away.
Yeah.
Come with me, I'll sort you out and give you a better deal than you're getting over here. And then Jesus said that the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light. And that used to offend me all the time, right? But with the more I've looked into things of just history in general, how things play out, you find that those who are successful, whether they are evil or good, have made it a generational thing.
Okay, I like that part. Yeah, I like that. So, yeah.
For too long as black people, either because the system is being used in that way, or we're choosing not to look into it properly, but we either let the system take away from building for the generations. Like an example of that is the when they incentivize, what do you call it? It's like social programs whereby if you're not married, you get money from the government.
Oh yeah.
Like when you have a child.
Yeah.
If you have a child out of wedlock, you get a flat, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, but it is.
Whereas you get less help if you're married.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So they're basically disincentivizing a solid family structure.
Correct.
Right. And that was pushed significantly into minority populations. But then it's also affected like
white communities
as well.
Yeah.
It's eroded the family in general.
Yeah.
Right. Especially poorer populations.
But yeah. It's for the poor folk, yeah.
So that means that people can't build generational wealth because they're not in family structures. They're not building anything together. Right? So that's part of the problem, is that even as Christians, even as the body of Christ, because we're in that culture that doesn't think long term, we're not trying to fix these problems realistically, understanding that there's only so far you can go within a generation. But then within 3-4 generations, we can eradicate, at least within the church. Don't forget about the rest of the world.
Okay, cool.
Right? Because the house, when we talk about in-house problems, it's the church.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
So let's eradicate poverty in the church. Let's eradicate mental health issues in the church. obesity in the church, racism in the church, tribalism in general in the church, right? Let's fix that and let's model it for the world properly. Then they can see and then they're attracted to Christ properly, right? But that's a generational thing, even within the church, let alone wider society. Right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I hear where you're going from there. So, if we've got,
I probably went on the tangent off the point you were making, but this is one of the key issues in that we don't think long term enough.
So how are we going to? Okay, then right. So all right, let's go back to the key point. The key point is that and I'm going to come from what you just said there. Yeah. So we go back to tribalism, and I totally get you from tribalism. Yeah. Because it's not just a black thing. There's
because thing is, all racism is long distance tribalism.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's just that because we're separated by continents, we look extremely different between like Asian and black or white and black or whatever.
Yeah. It's just a form of prejudice.
It's just prejudice. But then we have it next door nations. The whole no black, no Irish, no dog thing. It's English versus Irish. That's tribalism, right? It's basically racism. It's just that they're closer to each other. Even the word race, right? It's just changed in meaning recently. But then before, when people used to talk about, when they used race in language and literature, they were talking about a nation. So you could say the Irish race or the German race. You didn't have to do anything with color. It's a different nation with a different culture.
Yeah, when race didn't really come about until transatlantic slavery,
and that was the perversion of ideas as well.
So to justify what they were doing. Now, I hear what you're saying, but it all goes back down to this, bro. Yeah, and it goes to the tough question. And I hear all what you're saying, bro. You know, man. I hear what your sister's saying. We want to see productivity, and I want to get productivity when doing this platform for black people. You know what I mean? And I totally agree that we need to eradicate tribalism, racism, and I want to focus on them points within the church. Yeah, but the problem is, I see it more in the church, and sometimes I see it outside. Now, do ministers? Let me be real with you. When you go in a secular job now. You have to go through some equal opportunities, you know, you have to go through that sort of thing, where exposing look, so you get to say, okay, my gosh, I gotta look into them biasness and whatever there. So I've been late doing being in Black Lives Matters. I did a course about white people allying with black people's struggles and whatsoever. I did a course about that and whatever, which was actually a good course. You know, I thought it got kick off in it, but it was a fantastic course led by a white gay guy. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And I thought, he came across really well and he spoke some truths. Now, the thing is, there's no drive to educate for me, ignorant, uneducated, in terms of racially, white people who run the church in this country. That's a generalization. That's not everybody. You know what I'm saying? But they are ignorant, and even the ones who are cool are still ignorant. I was watching something about Jim Davis, and he was talking about, you know, he used to do impression of a Jamaican back when I was younger. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? And him doing that mean that a lot of us got racially abused in school, utilizing his voice. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? And what he did. Yeah, you know what I mean? But he's not going, oh my gosh, I am so sorry I did that. You know what I mean? I apologize for it. It's the reason why I did it, but it's wrong and I'm sorry because I've caused so many black young people in schools and adults absolutely hassle. He's not saying that. He's just giving you the reason why he did it and walking away from it. That is not the way forward, and that's what the church is doing for me, is ultimately a case of just keep on moving forward. And when I say the church, again, it's a generalization. Until we recognize certain things we've done wrong, you know what I'm saying? You can't just skirt over the subject and move forward, and that's what we've done when it comes to race. When it comes to the sound, I do music, you know what I'm saying? The sound, the prominent sound of worship, it's culturally European.
But where are we though?
You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, what I'm saying to you,
where are we
geographically, I totally agree. But what I'm talking about, that's the sound of the world. Now, I'm watching a lot of people debate things and talk about things, but when I see people of color You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about even people of color in the Americas. I'm talking about people of color in South Africa. I've heard a lady in South Africa said that, listen, they're pushing all these songs in our churches and not utilizing our cultural sound and songs. So these songs are now is like the sound of the world, and it's not, and it shouldn't be, but it's been directed by one note. You know what I'm saying? Which is the European note. Yeah, and I have I'm not a massive problem with that, but I'm just saying, I do have a massive problem with that, because the thing is, what it does is they invest into their own sound when the sound of the world is evolving. I have a lot of white children go, yo, I love R&B, I love hip hop, but in the invested sound in Christianity is into their music, not into our music.
But
and that's popular music.
When you look at it specifically,
is that by design or by purpose?
Both. It's both in the sense that culture does what culture does. Right? It's almost like a machine. It's almost like I think the thing that's coming to my head is the 80-20 principle, right? Whereby, you know how the 80-20 principle works,
Yeah.
So 80% of the output of a system comes from 20% of the input.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you're going to hit a threshold, and what becomes popular it's disproportionate to it disproportionately represents the minority of creators, right? That's just what happens. Now, the onus is on the people in these grassroots spaces to preserve their culture.
Cool. Love it. Yeah, cool. I hear that.
It's on you. It's not on anybody else, right? And because it's all swings and roundabouts, at some point, because look at house music now. Look how much it's got a kwaito, like that's a South African genre of music.
Cool.
Right? Look how much it's got a kwaito feel to it. And amapiano and other South African genres, right? Disproportionately so, but it's going into all the world, right? You have like bands like what are they called, Vampire Weekend, and another band like basically doing what Paul Simon did in the 80s, right? In terms of like highlighting music from Africa and being influenced by it.
Okay,
right?
cool, yeah.
So there's always going to be a cultural cross-pollination. Sometimes it will be, what's the word I'm looking for? Call it malicious and be cultural appropriation, whereby you are profiting without properly, genuinely appreciating the culture. So you do have artists who do that, purely steal, right? But then a lot of the time, most of the time, a lot of people who are being accused of cultural appropriation are just people who appreciate and are inspired by the art and create art based on it, right?
Okay. So
So you will have a percentage who are just thieves. Who know there's a market. Who I understand that there's a market for this.
So if I sing, there's scenarios which I won't bring up now, but I get what you're saying. So I want to go to the core element of what you said before that, because musically there's a role that we can really expand on, and I know we can break into that totally and do a total separate show on music alone. But going back to it, you're ultimately saying we are where we just gotta, our cultural sounds, our individual sounds, whether they're Zim, whether they reggae from the Caribbean, whether it's soca from the smaller islands, whether whatever sound, Afrobeats and whatever, so whatever our sound is culturally, it's down to us in our pockets, just to celebrate that and to maintain that,
and it doesn't mean a rejection of what's outside, because what's outside is going to influence where you're going. Like your current sound was influenced by something external at some point anyway.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And you and your culture and your original sounds have
kind of like tweaked and mold and moved forward.
Have influenced someone else elsewhere.
Yeah, 100%. Right? I get what you're saying.
You need to preserve what you have while appreciating what's coming from outside.
So the systems that have almost always put the finances in place for a sound which is not black, in Christendom. Yeah, and that's the reality show. Is the sound which is black. You know, American artists more about it. The big American artists that we see from a gospel perspective.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is that the sound that's being pushed is basically CCM, right?
Yeah,
contemporary Christian music,
which is effectively black because it's rock and roll. But anyway,
but then rock and roll is a cross pollination. It's not one thing.
Wait, it's black music. Rock and roll is black music.
It's not just black music, because even if you think about
originally it's black though.
No, you've got the Chuck Berrys and whatnot, right?
Yeah. But then white bands jumped on it
and the Bo Diddleys and so on and so forth. But then, how can I put it? It's not out of a vacuum, right? It's not, because it's not like that's the sound of Africa.
Sound of Afro. Go back to African Americans. Well, Afro slaves in America.
Okay, so it's the sound of African Americans.
Yeah.
It's, if you like let's say jazz or whatever.
Yeah.
It's black musicianship with white technology. You have to acknowledge everything. Right. Okay.
Cool.
You have to acknowledge everything and where it's come from, and because they were educated. Well, not all of them. Some of them just picked up the guitar and learned. But especially the jazz guys, they would have learned. They would have had some classical training.
Okay. Cool.
Right. They would, especially the really good ones, they would have been well versed in like classical music, and then they would have put their own cultural spin on it, and then it would have become jazz. Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And rock and roll came out of what? It came out of the blues. It came out of gospel. It came out of like from the black side. You can see the whole what do you call it? The call and response stuff. What do you call them? I forgot the specific genre that you call it. But you can see the strands from, because ultimately America is a melting pot. So all the music that comes out of America will come out of those, that the intersection of those cultures. Right, you have to acknowledge everything for what it is. So it irks me it irks me when people say rock and roll is just black music, because it's not just black music, right? In the same way that it irks me when somebody because I'm a heritage person, right? I think because I've thought about it long enough, and I've prayed about it for ages. It's about God's heart, and God's heart is about the human being in all his shades. Cool. So when you've got mixed race people who say that they're just black and they reject their whiteness, or vice versa, like let's say
it does happen, right? Yeah,
and they reject their blackness or whatever, they're rejecting something God chose to be in them for them to fully function as a human being and to fully accomplish what he put them on the earth for.
So if we got rejected by the church as black people, and when I say as black people, a Windrush generation, the Afro-Caribbeans who came over here.
Why identify yourself based on someone else's failures?
Who's someone else's failure?
So the church, so the English church failed in a number of cases, right? They failed with slavery, right? Some even supported slavery. But again, because you're talking about Wilberforce and people throwing Wilberforce. But then, like I was saying, because it takes generations to fix a problem, just because it didn't happen instantly doesn't mean that there weren't voices working, doesn't mean there weren't people doing things.
No,
right?
no.
So but then, like you've mentioned, like how the church has failed, and you seem to you've attached it, right? But then why identify with someone else's failures as opposed to, okay, God let these people fail and this affected me, my family in a particular way, put me in a particular spot. But now I know God, he's redeemed me. And redemption means turning those things around. So how does you having those experiences, and how does you having blood from all over the world, some which was in charge of your blackness being oppressed, some which was in charge of your blackness eventually coming out of that oppression.
I love the way you bring it across.
And go back long enough, who knows what's on your black side, right? Who knows if some of your blackness, your black side was proudly house slave, proudly. You don't know, but it's like, how do you account for that? You can't account for what you don't know, but you deal with what you do know. And you are both black and white, mostly black, but for whatever measure of Portuguese, Scottish, or whatever you have, God will use that. God can use that.
So no. I hear what you're saying, and it's I hear the positive spin on it. But the thing is, my thing, and we're going to be wrapping up because because I know we can expand on some major points as the season goes on, guys. We're going to get Terry on, and when things come up, I'm just going to go and say, "Yo, I'm going to hit my bridge in them. I'm going to hit Terry because Terry's throwing back the punches in a great way." My only thing is, bro, the main key thing when it comes down to it, as we come to a close, when it comes to because I want people to comment on some of the things that have been said in this.
Absolutely.
Because we can feedback off the comments. You know what I'm saying?
Not only that, because because
there'll be questions which you can expand on.
And there's questions that I'm asking.
Yeah. Because that's what you've done. You've asked me questions where I'm going.
But there's questions like further questions that I need to ask as well, because ultimately these are issues that need to be fixed. But there's the general problem, and then there's the specific ones, right? But you can't fix the general problems until you sort out your individual specific spaces, right? And the contact points that you have with the world. Right?
Yeah. No, 100%. And the thing is, in that time, and I know some churches have done it, but they struggle to do it. White leadership in charge of black people. Because that happens a lot in this country, which is cool. You know what I mean? It happens, you know, and it is an English country, so you know there's gonna be black people there's no problems. When the trauma of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter come up there, what they didn't recognize is that brings up trauma of racism with what people have seen and what people have had to go through individually. And did they give a forum for people to? I don't think people not always realized, never gave a space to talk. And it's good to good to talk. And sometimes some people see me coming to church and don't know what I actually went through as a childhood. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's good because they actually think, oh, it's never happened here. But when I say, oh, it's second, me and my brother got stopped by police. Why? Oh, because they said that two black guys robbed a thing mob and they stopped us to check our car. There's nothing wrong with the car. My brother is bricking himself, man. He's like, yo, what do? I said, bro, son, I said to my brother, I said, don't worry. Do what they say. You're not going to find no drugs in the car. Stay calm. The moment you go on stupid, they'll go on stupid with you. So we stayed calm. Brothers had a CD. He had a CD player in his pocket. Listening to his CD player. You know the days when you had personal CD players. Remember them days, people. And the police stopped him and said, oh, you got a knife in your pocket. You know what I mean? They're not going to stop up. You know what I mean? So all physical individual foolishness that we face individually, you know, people don't realize that, oh, you've had it. Oh, but because they don't listen to us. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And it's that inability to listen and always tell us that it's all right for you. It's all right. Your identity is Christ, and we need that perform. But some of the things that you have raised today, bro, are great questions. And I really want people to hit us back on that. But go on.
How long have we got?
Oh, bro, go on. If you want to close. We're kind of like we don't mind doing overtime. We're going.
No, only because like there's just many points.
Cool.
But I suppose if we
love it, man. We love it.
If we keep bringing it back to kingdom,
cool.
Kingdom culture and like the whole Jew and Gentile, one new man in Christ. Regardless of where you come from. Clearly, the church hasn't invested enough time, prayer, effort into understanding that corporate identity, that corporate kingdom identity. When we do that work, then all these other things can be solved. When we go up high 100%. Enough so that we can see with God's perspective, then we can start to sort these problems out. But because too often we are coming at it emotionally, coming at it intellectually from a worldly perspective, right? And not enough from a godly perspective in terms of how you deal with things. Because it's like, if you look at how Jesus healed people, it's like the guy was blind, he made mud cakes from his spit, washed his eyes, and the guy could see. He didn't perform surgery. Do you know what I mean? He did a random thing. it's like, for all we know, God wants us to do some random thing.
Yeah.
But we haven't come close enough to God to say, these are the issues that we are corporately facing. Let alone, and before you even go corporately, these are the issues that I'm facing as an individual, because we don't challenge God enough. And when I say challenge, I don't mean like belittle God. I mean, like Pastor Neil always says, it's like too often we tell God how big our problems are. We don't tell our problems how big God is.
God is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we don't put God in his proper place enough. And that includes the racial things, especially as the black church. We look too much like, this was done, blah, 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 so on and so forth. We don't often ask God why we're even here geographically and what problems he's brought us here to solve.
Okay. Cool.
Right? Because, is it the parable of the wheat and the tares? There's a parable. I love the parables, man. But there's one where the farmer sows his crops.
Yeah.
And then the enemy comes and sows some weeds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And basically the moral of the story is you have to let everything grow.
Yeah.
Because if you uproot the weeds too early before the crop is mature, you kill the crop. So you need to let the good and the evil pan out how it pans out until the good is strong enough to withstand the uprooting of the evil. Okay.
So the can the church withstand a racial cleansing?
Well, the church has. This is the shaking. So everything needs to be shaken up until that which can't be shaken remains. Right. Yeah. This is part of the shake-up. So
it was a massive shake-up, I'll be honest.
Right?
Yeah.
As black people, we've been too easily offended. And once you're offended, you're a little bit useless because you're on the back foot. As Christians, we're meant to be on the front foot.
Okay.
Because we're supposed to be bringing the problems we're supposed to be bringing solutions to the problems of the world. But we're supposed to be God's hands. Yeah. But too often we find ourselves in the midst, if not part of the problem. Right? We're supposed to be above it. We're supposed to. Do you remember when we first had one of these conversations? It's about being post-political.
He's licking it off,
Yeah, it's about being
sweat.
Post-political. Post-racial. Yeah. We're supposed to be post-human, if you like. Yeah. Right. So all these things that we as human beings suffer, we're supposed to go beyond that to God, who's superhuman. Yeah. See his perspective, get his strategy, and then employ it in the natural. Right?
You're pushing the
because
no, it's great.
Because the other part is we forget that there's like I said, we forget that there's Satan is there and he brings confusion, right? So he's always sowing seeds of confusion, and especially in the church, because once we're together and once we're one, there's no stopping us. And when I say one, I mean like all the cultures in the world. Like in Revelation, it said all the people from all the world were represented, right? They're all in heaven, right? So we're supposed to represent Christ with our cultures. So you were right when you're talking about how Christianity was used to whitewash and to remove cultures. God wants the good things in our cultures that we have as different races and different people, different ethnicities to remain, because nation states were his idea anyway. So he wants all those good cultural expressions to remain, because they all represent, we're all different facets of God ultimately, right, as expressions. And he wants us to subject ourselves enough to kingdom, to the idea of the kingdom, to do away with all those bad cultural expressions, because we all our cultures do have that, right? But as we do the work, and we have to do it individually as people, we have to do it individually as nations, and get to a certain point, then we can come to the table together and be like, do you remember that crap that we used to, we sorted that out. And then white people can talk about their crap, Asians can talk about their crap, and then we're like, we sorted ourselves out. Now we can move on and do some stuff. Because I've looked at myself, black man. And I see what you were talking about how I don't turn up on time. right?
Yeah, that is a
right. And I hear you, and especially when especially here in Europe, where you only have, like, especially in the winter, you only have so many hours in the day to do stuff, right? That just doesn't work. It's not like we're in equatorial places where the sun shines all the time. You can do what you like when you like.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you have to pick up cultural things or drop them depending on where and where you are. It's a flexibility thing. It's like the issues are so complex that we really need to rely on God's perspective, and we really need to rely on the Holy Spirit. And we don't do that enough. It's literally moment to moment. Have you ever had those times in life where literally moment to moment you're like, God, what am I doing?
Yeah.
God, what am I doing?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because we're lost. Because we're and when you mentioned that pastor in from Hillsong who said what he said about this not a UK problem, he wasn't telling a lie. That whatever demon flew over the Atlantic and came over into the UK and France and stuff, because it's not like the problem wasn't highlighted. It wasn't, but when you see the aftermath with the riots and the deaths and the property damage and the loss of wealth, right? And it was property damage to honest working people a lot of the time. It's like, what value is there in that? There's absolutely none, right? So that quotation isn't wrong, but there is a problem to be worked at, but it's not going to be sorted by responding to the world and the manipulation of the media, because there was a lot of that.
Over that. No.
In many things. We can start talking about the media with regards to COVID, with regards to whatever.
I know we're gonna get bare questions, which is gonna be great, guys. Because I think, Terry, we're gonna be looking at it so we can expand, and I think that what you raised there, like even in the last few points there, so it is a whole debate within itself. You know what I'm saying? Even that because a lot of black people were offended by what that guy said. So it was just kicked off. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, for me, he didn't at all. When your church has got a lot of black people in it, you know what I mean? For me, they have their struggles, and you cannot. He didn't realize, or he did realize, he belittled the whole black negative experience. There's a different experience because of colonialism. There's a different experience because of slavery. But they are very negative to this very day. Affects all the colonial and slave nations. Jamaica's a slave nation. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. So all these guys, the wild way they are is because of, you know.
I totally understand.
So you can't do that. But the thing is, like I said, we're going to look at things from a Christian perspective, and that's when Christianity had the opportunity in the UK to have deep, long conversations and deal and actually look at things in a lot of detail. Things. There was a lot of great podcasts. That came out. As you can imagine, like, we're on a podcast now, great podcast, talking about things and whatever they're still. And when you raise up something called critical race theory, everyone jumps out and go, no. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of the show is that they've been manipulated by what they've seen about critical race. And this is why you said about media's all coming in, because each side has been influenced from what they're seeing on YouTube, and everyone's jumping on information. And then we have the COVID information that's going out there that's been manipulated. Everything's been manipulated, and you have a load of angry people. And it goes back to what you're saying in terms of going back to being God-led and actually going, this is what it is.
Because even the timing for the conversation, because you said that there's an opportunity for the church to talk about this, that, and the other. And yes, maybe to have a conversation, but what if it wasn't God's timing? Because you see, there was too much emotion, and everything was reactionary. And when you're dealing with a reaction, and when you're dealing with people who are offended and hurt and so on and so forth, people who are in that space are going to make demands, and they're going to require changes, and sometimes the changes just can't be made. Right?
Ooh. Okay, cool. No.
It's like there's like we instantly want change, this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. And
change can't happen overnight. Can't happen overnight.
It's generations.
It took hundreds of years to get yourself to this position. Yeah. You can't just press a button and totally infiltrate. I do appreciate what you're saying there. But I do think that, like I said, everything comes by design, and it goes back to your original statement in terms of, this is end of the day, so God has allowed situations to happen. Just that's that. It all goes down to that. And I think that we're in a season now where, bro, it's a case of I'm like this. As you said, you got to get your stuff right before you come to the conversation. And we as black people, we need to get it stuff right. We need to get our voice correct. We have to understand that, you know, we all got different voices and different perspectives, and to appreciate it, because we do. You know, myself, like a man like myself, wouldn't create a platform that you could talk, and I'll just keep it sterile and keep it to my own perspective, and just be like, yo, we're coming for them. We're gonna go and bud down the whole system or whatever. So yeah, but I do appreciate some of the points that you have raised on today's show, and I think that there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of kickback, and I know a couple people want to say certain things, but I want to be able to prepare up Terry for next time. So what we want to do is basically put it out to you guys, you know, in terms of, and there'll be a couple of times where we might have a bishop, you know, in here, and certain people coming into the conversation, and maybe even sound bites of what people have said online. We could find out sound bites and comment about certain sound bites culturally and racially that we need to talk about. What are there? So for example, if we already was talking like this and the Hillsong pastor mentioned stuff, it's Saturday, Sunday, we could then next week be able to respond, because we have platforms to respond and people to hear that. But because we never had platforms like this set up, we couldn't respond to it. And I think this is the importance for these type of platforms, so we can respond culturally, because end of the day, still, like you said, sometimes we have to separate ourselves and look at what we do in ourselves to respond and to maintain the not the struggle, but maintain the optics on cultural issues and whatsoever. So there's a few things, but guys, if you do have any questions and anything to disagree what Terry was saying, that's great, because you know that gives chance for Terry to he's got loads of stats, loads of information to back his viewpoint. Trust me, he does.
And not just that, it's like it's opportunity for growth for me. I've actually got less to say and more to ask. And I'm hoping more people get to the conversation is so much easier if we're asking questions. I think we get to solutions quicker if we're asking questions.
100%.
But we almost don't know how to think about things to ask the right questions. Right? We have to ask a lot of nonsense questions to get to the point where we ask the right question. We have to do a lot of filtering, but the thinking is difficult when we're being pushed to feel all the time. Right? And especially with black people, we love how we're expressive, we love how we're artists, blah, blah, blah. But that's a lot of emotion right there. And we don't encourage the critical thought enough, especially directed at ourselves, right? So by all means, challenge my position so that I can do that as well.
You know, because I think it's great just to have it. And you have me and Terry. We are, you could almost say, the Republicans and Democrats coming together here on the table. I just you guys have a trouble with that one. But I think it's absolutely great, because I think that, you know, we're both Christian brothers, and the reality show is that we can both chill out and talk to each other and yam. I would say McDonald's, but vegan sandwiches. You know what I'm saying?
No.
A vegan burger, Beyond Burger. You know what I'm saying? Have a nice
steak all day, bro. Steak all day. What are you talking
he says
about?
That he says that he's 40 when he's 40, and he feel a little different. You start going. Don't worry, it will change. But I think that I think it's great for us to be able to talk, show love, move forward, and keep on learning and developing each other and help critics. So you made a lot of you've asked a lot of questions out to me for me to go away and ask myself questions and battle with myself.
And reflect back to me, bro.
Because I think that for me, I don't always respond straight away. And I think that's important. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to get my head straight, check two informations, sound out even with two brethren. I'm thinking, what do you think? And bounce it all off before, chew it good before I come back at you. So you know, I got some stuff to come back, but we'll definitely make a subject out of this. But this, guys, is the first initial meeting of myself and Terry. I'm going to enjoy trying to make the subtitle for this one anyway. Still, you know what I mean, just to get the clickbait going on. You shouldn't do clickbait, Roger. You're a Christian. Yes, we do clickbait
for the algorithm.
For algorithms, bro. For algorithms, you know how it goes. But Terry, thanks for the time coming out and whatever. amazing. And I think the time is amazing, guys, because this shows that we both are investing into the generational wealth of our people in terms of knowledge, in terms of experiences, so people can see, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren can see what we saw and what we're talking about right now. But they don't need to go through this. You know what I mean? So our great grandchildren, sons will look at each other and say, yeah, man, our great granddad's already dealt with this.
Yeah.
3 generations before, so we don't have to stop doing this stupid cycle thing and keep on moving forward. So we documenting
but then they'll also know that people came together.
Yeah.
Because they will have their own issues to deal with.
Yeah.
So they'll have an example to say, okay, we've got these issues. We're not going to solve them today. So like our great-grandparents sorted stuff out for us. We're sorting stuff out for our great-grandchildren. Perspective.
Yeah, man, no, 100%. You know what I mean? Listen, guys, nothing but love. Myself here, Brother Terry, and we're gone, man, yeah? Blessings, man.
Thank you for watching the content we're putting out. Listen, make sure that you are liking, subscribing and following us on all our social channels, including patreon.com. Make sure you're finding us on there to support what we do so we can support you. And remember, guys, be extra.